Okay, good Erev Shabbos. We're up to Lamed Aleph Amid Aleph, and we are on the top line. Lamed Aleph on Amid Aleph, and we are on the top line. We're in the sugyas of Cheska Shalosh Shanim, and this case, in fact, was halacha l'maisa. This case actually happened. There was such a case. So, this one said, "This is my father's." This one said, it was my father's. So one person said, it's my father's, and I ate shani chazaka. The other person just said it's his father. This one brought edus that it was his father's. And this one brought edus that he ate shani chazaka, but that it wasn't his father's. So you have chaluki deis. You have edim. One aid saying that it was your father's. You have another one saying that you ate shani chazaka, but you do not have aidis on the father in the second one. What's the din? So Amar Rabba says Rabba, Ma loy l'shaker, the person who said he ate shani chazaka, right, and he said it's his father's, even though he doesn't have aidis on the father, he should be believed. Because if he wanted to, Amalei, he could have said, and I ate shani chazaka. If this person would have said, I bought it from you and ate shani chazaka, he would have a winning taina. That is Cheska Sabatim 101, right? That's the opening line to Cheska Sabatim. He would have had a winning taina. I bought it from you and I ate shani chazaka. He has edus on the shani chazaka. So if you would have had that taina, you'd have the classic, right? Cheska shanim im yesh taina. He didn't say that. He said, I bought it from you. It was my father's, and I ate shani chazaka. Says Rabba, you have a migu. Believe me, it was my father's, and I ate shani chazaka. Migu, I could have said, I bought it from you, and I would be believed. So I have a migu. Believe me this, I could have had a better taina. That's the svara of migu. Okay. Now again, this person has edus that it was his father's. Good. So Rabba says, Malu l'shaki b'yom le'mincha zmante v'chad shani chazaka. Amle Abaya, a big yisoid, Mali l'shake b'mokem edim lo'yamina. In the din of ne'emanis, when it comes to migu, is one of the klolim of migu is when you have a migu keneged edus, a migu keneged chazaka. There are different halachas. There's a shach. I don't remember where it is. It goes through a whole litany of migus and that you don't say all the halachas of migu. So says Rabbah says Abaya in this case, we're going to keep it by the guy who said that, who has edus that is his father's. Why? Because it's in your migu that you could have had a winning taina, because you could have said you bought it from me. It's not b'makom edim. It's not going to be. Okay, it's not going to be. Okay, so that's what happened initially. That's what happened initially. Okay, so right now, whose hands is it in? It's in the hands of the one who had edus that it was his father's. Good. Okay, let's call him Reuven. Reuven has it right now. Shimon is the one who had shani chazaka, but he didn't have tainas on his phone. Now, Amalei, Hada Amalei. Now he comes back, Shimon, and says, it's true, the Avasachi, it was your father's. However, let's do the Bach. Bizavnina, Bizavinta minayu. And we bought it from him. We bought it from him. Not from you, we bought it from him. Good. Now, why did I not say this initially? Well, I said it was my father's. Now I'm saying that it was your father's, but I bought it, or it was bought by my in-law, whoever, his ancestors. The Haida Amiloch Davasi, and that I said it was my father's, you know what I meant? The Samachli Allah, I was assured it would remain in my jurisdiction. Kidavasi. Like it was my father's. Look at Rashbam, guys. The samach Allah kedavasi, right in parallel. Hayisi saimech umuftach al karkasu. I was so rest assured that this karka ki'ilu hi shalabaisai, as if it was my father's. The fisher zakti ba b'shufi. I was on it, with, in a row, quietly, shufi quietly, ube edim. And have edim that I was on there for 3 years. And I acquired it from your father. Okay, so therefore, that's why I said it. In other words, I should have explained more. I should have explained more when I said it was what of my father's, and I didn't. I should have explained more. Question: do we accept his second taina or not? Now, guys, we know we have a concept in Adis of kimin shehigid shuv ein magid. Once you said you haggadas Adis, there's no backsays. Now, over here, there's a shaila whether toyin v'chayzer v'toyin, whether you go back or not. Okay, so let's go one more time and cover Rabbi. Rabbi, you here? Okay. Here's the case. Two fellas. One person says, "This is my field. I have Adis that it's my field because I have Adis that it was my father's field." Another person says, "It was my father's field, and I ate shani chazaka, and I have Adis on shani chazaka. I don't have Adis that's my father's field. I have Adis in shani chazaka." So Rabbi wanted a taina. Let's give it to the one who said he had shani chazaka. Migu, he could have said, "I bought it from you and have shani chazaka," right? Migu, that I could have said, "I bought it from you, have shani chazaka." Believe me, I said it's my father. Okay, so Migu says, "Abai, it's a Migu b'makam eidim. I have eidim that was mine. Migu b'makam eidim lo'yamrina." Now the guy's coming back. The one who said, "What I ate shani chazaka," he's saying, "When I said it's my father's, let me clarify. Since I was on there for 3 years, and since I bought it from you, from your father, I was assured like it was my father's." So in other words, he's kind of fine-tuning what he said before. He is makish it a little bit, but he's not soiser it. In other words, it's not a lie. He's not disagreeing what he said before. He's just adding a little more information, but it's still not what he said. He said, "It's my father's." You didn't say that. Now you're saying, "What I meant was, I was so assured it was mine if the shani chazaka, and I know my father bought it from your father, so I said it's my father's." Do we accept that second taina or not? Do we accept that second taina or not? That's the question at hand. Says the Gemara, do we say tayin v'chayz v'tayin, that he can claim and go back and claim? I ain't chayz v'tayin, or he can't. Ula Amar, we're about 12 lines down. Ula Amar, tayin v'chayz v'tayin. In this case, he could. In this case, we'll go ahead, since it doesn't uproot what he said previously, since it kind of fine-tunes it, right? Then we'll say tayin v'chayz v'tayin. Nadoy Ami, Nadoy says, in this case, ein tayin v'chayz v'tayin. We won't say chayz v'tayin v'tayin. Now, what's the issue over here? What's the issue over here? Again, it's not contradicting what he said. On the other hand, it's not what he said. If it was contradicting what he said, even Ula would be Maida, we don't let him go back. If it wasn't contradicting, if it's just an addendum and it's a clear addendum without any hakosha of what he said previously, even Nardoi would agree. So now the Gemara is going to go ahead and just say what I just told you. In other words, the machloikis between Ula and Nardoi is in this case where it's fine-tuning, but a little kvetchy. If, on the other hand, it's an outright different, even Ula would might that you don't accept it. If, on the other hand, it's clearly an addition to, and not a makish, not denying at all, even Nardoi would believe. So machloik is only in this case. So says the Gemara, Umayda Ula, and Ula's Maida, Heichad Amalei, where he told him, Shalavoisai, Beloy Shalavasecha. So in other words, this one said, it's my father's, and this one said, I ate Shani Chazaka, and it's my father and not your father's. Then he goes back and says, you know what I meant? I meant that it was clear to me that I was like my father's. That's uprooting what he said before, because he said before, and it's not your father's. Now he's telling me, no, well, it was your father's, but I bought it from him. That would be exactly the opposite. Then even Ula would be Moida. Again, when does Ula say If he just said it was my father's, and then he says, and you know what I meant? But if he says it was my father's and not your father's, now he goes back and says, well, it really was your father's, but he bought it from him. Even Ulu and Moed, that's not good. Why? Because he's totally going ahead and oika, the lashon of the Rashbam, he's being oika his devarim. He's going ahead and uprooting the words he said previously. Guys, you hear the difference? You hear the difference? If this guy Tainis, it was my father's, and this guy says, no, it was my father. And now he comes back and says, well, you know what I meant? It was my father. I meant I ate shani chazaka, and my father bought it from yours. So it's not a lie. It's kind of adding to what I said, but not, I mean, it's a little fetchy, but conversely, if the guy says, you say it's your father's, no, it was my father's, and it wasn't your father's. And now, this guy, now we go ahead and say, well, you know what I really meant? I meant that it was my father's, but not your father. Nah, you said it wasn't your father's. You can't, and now you're telling me it was your father's and you bought it from him. That's not going to wash. So moed ula heichadam leishal avoisai v'leishal avasecha dein etayin v'chais v'tayin. You can't go back. However, the heichi the koi the havi koi beidina. He wasn't bezdin. V'leitayin. He doesn't say anything. V'yasa me'avroi. He goes outside, and then he comes back v'tayin. Ein chais v'tayin. My timer, Tainase Agmre. He went outside and he met some relatives and they said, how'd the court case go? And he said, well, this is what happened. He goes, this is what happened. Well, you could have said this. He goes, okay. And he goes back. So in other words, we don't believe the guy. Once he goes out, has a chance to speak to quote unquote counsel outside, we're not going to go ahead and believe him. So two addendums to, says Ula, the din is Tayin b'chais v'tayin, provided it's not an outright uprooting of what he previously said. Provided what he didn't have a chance to go ahead and converse with others who possibly could have given him this information. Now, why did Nardoi say? Nardoi said, you can't. Do they ever agree that you could? Yes. He said, it was my father's who bought it from your father, the chayis of Itayim. In other words, over here, that is clearly not tweaking anything. It's my father's. In Basra, it says my father's. I just forgot to say who bought it from your father. That even Nadoi will be Maida is acceptable. Again, you see the difference with the first one. Well, it really was your father's, but there's no but over here. In other words, the but, guys, it's very geschmack, that one word. When you come onto a but, that's the machlokes. You hear? But I meant this. That's the machlokes. If it's an outright, however, total subversion, you don't believe that. If, however, there's no but, it's your father's, who bought it. It's my father's, and he's now explaining who bought it from your father. There's no but. In that case, I think it's very geschmack. It just came to my mind. But means, you know what but means? But means 1 second. It's not exactly what you said, right? It's not exactly what you said. But in English, and when the girls used to argue with me, I would say but means no. I would say something and say but. I said, really, what you mean is no. You don't agree. Over here, this but is like a little, right? A little knech. But over here, there is no but whatsoever. He's just saying, when I said it's your father, my father's, I meant who bought it from your father. Then even Nardoi would be Maida. Right? Another, where he's speaking outside. He's speaking outside. In other words, he didn't present to the court yet, but he's speaking outside. They asking, what are you going to claim? And he claims A. Comes into the court, v'toyin B, and he says the exact opposite, right? The chayis v'toyin. Why timer? Of an inish megali tanase. In other words, he's keeping his cards close to his chest. In other words, this is what I said outside, but guess what? You know what? He only said that, he gave the guy the old, the draft day. Right? I mean, the draft, there's always the smoke screen. Who is he going to draft? Because they really want somebody else, but they let it go out over this, so this person will take this guy, and it's a bluff, right? It's a bluff. I mean, after all, we try to bluff people out of Zach Wilson, but it didn't work. Okay, so now we have, let's go. So guys, two extremes. where clearly the second taina overrides the first one. I mean, it makes it that it's not, he didn't mean that. Then what? When he didn't mean that, but, right? No. When it overrides it, meaning it's not what I said, then everyone agrees that you can't go back. Where it adds to, it just explains it, it adds to, and it's not a reach, it's not makish at all, the first one, everyone agrees. Where's the machloikas between Ula and the Nardoi? Is where it's a but. Well, you know what? It was your father's. It's true. It was my father's. But but what I meant was really it was your father's, but I meant it was clear to me like it was mine. That's a but. That in that case, Ula says you do say it, and Nardoi says you don't. Says the Gemara. Amar Meima, ano Nardoyano, I'm a Nardoyan, Usvirali, and I hold the Tayin v'chayz v'tayin. I hold like Ula. The Hilchah said Allah is Tayin v'chayz v'tayin. In fact, you can go ahead and be Tayin. Guys, good? Good. Machloikis, got the case. Good. Again, classic Gemara, very interesting style of Gemara, right, guys? Going from case to case to case to case. This is I mean, this is Baba Basra. This is, we had all the digressions of the early Prakim, and this is brass tacks, mamish, packed. I have written on the side of Gemara, every line is a concise, mamish, written on every side. When I learned this 50 years ago, or 40 years ago. Says the Gemara. This guy says it was my father's, and this guy says what? It was my father's. And 1 second, we have a bach over here. Okay, okay, so they both make the same claim. So this is the same case with one addition. They're both claiming it was their father, and not one person had shani chazaka, but both had shani chazaka, right? Both had shani chazaka. Now, one brings edis that he ate shani chazaka, and the other one brings edis that what? That it was his father in ate shani chazaka. One brings edis on both, and one brings edis only on one. Okay, so now you have two. They're both making the same claim, guys. Look, guys, both making the same claim, guys. Right? You ate shani chazaka. Your father's shani chazaka. This guy has edis on both. This guy only has edis on shani chazaka. He does not have edis on father. Who do you believe? Who do you believe? Now, clearly, one person is not telling the truth, because each one is claiming they ate shani chazaka in the same time, and each one has edis on this. So these edim clearly are, one of them is not telling the truth, because they have edim on the same thing, that they ate shani chazaka. The edis and the father, that's okay. So, question: who do you believe? What's the din over here? Interesting shaila. Amar Rav Nachman, uki achila lebahadi achila. You take the edis on the shani chazaka, and you take the edis on shani chazaka. For uki ara becheskas abasa, and you give the land over to the one who had edis on the father. So let the two edis on the chazaka cancel each other out, and the edis on the father that would hold water. That would be the winning claim. That's what Rav Nachman says. That's what Rav Nachman says. Okay. It says the Rashbam, 3 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Nachman, edis ta'achli batlud uki edis shalachila keneged edis shniya shalachila v'imachishim zeh aval be'edis ta'avasa the loyach chashesa edus and kayemes. That edis is still around, right? We'll keep it there for in his hands. That's good edis. Fred the Gemara Kasha. Asks Amalei Rava back in the Gemara. Says Rava to what? To Rav Nachman. The ha'edis mucheshes he. How can we believe the edis again? The edim that are saying on the shani chazaka are the same edim that are saying on the fact that it was his father. I should have added that. There's not 3 sets of edis over here, guys. There's only 2. One of the edim are killing two birds with one stone. They're saying it was daddy's and the Eid Shani Chazaka. Now, says Rava, how could we believe this Eidim that it was the father? Obviously, this Eidim is questionable whether good Eidis because we have other Eidim connected them on the Eid Chazaka of Shalish Shanim. So therefore, they're Mukeshes. So if they weaken each other, let them weaken also on the fact that they said it was the father's. So we can't believe them at all. So says the Gemara, Amalei Rava, for Eidis Mukeshes he. It's Eidis Mukeshes. Bottom Rashbam. Kivin the Hani base Kitais Machisha Zu. Since they go ahead and weaken each other, one of them is puzzle. The Chal Idiyah Sheba Olam on all Edis in the rest of the world. The Achrei Shein Levara Eiz Absul. We don't know which one. We have to be bottled the complete Edis. In other words, even though guys, there's no akasha on the fact they said it belonged to daddy, you have to take into account that once they're knocking heads on the Shani Chazaka, one of them is lying. If they're lying, they're Pasal Edis. So al Safik, we're going to say, well, I don't know who to believe, so I can't believe you on the father as well. So he disagrees with Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman held the Edis on the father, despite the fact it was Mukish on the Shani Chazaka, still held weight, and therefore it was believable. It says Rav, no, it's Edis Mecheshes. It's Edis Mecheshes. You're not going to put it in their hands. Okay? So says Rav Nachman, Amalei, Nehida iskachesh bachilasa. Good, base. Good, they were weakened on the Shani Chazaka, ba'avasa on the daddy, mi iskachesh. They weren't on that. They weren't knocked out. On that, they weren't knocked out. So therefore, that's still Mekoyim. Okay. So now it gets into a Lamda Shashayla over here. You could kind of hear both sides. You can hear Rav Nachman, and you could hear, okay? Again, keep in mind, fellas, there's a chazaka of a cheskes kashrus. And when you have a doubt, you can keep a person in the cheskes kashrus. Okay, now we're going to suggest that this machloikas between Rav Nachman and Rava is a machloikas between Rav Huna and Rav Chisda. Good? We're going to say it's a machloikas of earlier Amoraim. Okay, let's get clear to Shittis. Rav Nachman is the one who says, despite the fact that you're makish on the Shani Chazaka, you're still viable on the father, Edis and the father. Rava says, since you're not believable, we can't believe you on the Edi Akasha, you're passel the Edis, and we're going to passel even al Safik, we don't know, and therefore we're going to passel the Edis on the father as well, that he said is the father's land. Says the Gemara. Leima, let us say, Rav Nachman, beplukta the Rav Huna, Rav Chisda kamifli. They're arguing what? In the machlokes between Rav Huna and Rav Chisda. The Itmar. Beis kite Eidim, hamachishim zu ezu. You have two Eidim who weaken each other. The Rashbam says, guys, it's speaking about it's Eidis Mominus, right? Two people. This guy says, you owe money. This place, you don't owe money. You know, this person, Harry borrowed from you on X day, and they said you can't say that because you were with us on that day. In other words, it's not Eidi Hazama. It's not on Mona Yusim. In Mona Yusim on the guy who did an Aveira. He's saying Harry couldn't have borrowed from you on that day because Harry was with us. Imanu Yusim guys on the Eidis. Guys, remember guys, just for a second. Eidi Hazama, how could you have testified on that day if you were with us? Let's say two people say Harry killed this guy. And they come along, the Eidis says, how can you say Harry killed? Harry's with us. He had an alibi. That's not Eidim Zoymim, guys. Eidim Zoymim was saying, how could you have testified? You were with us. You hear? So in this case, the Rashbam says this is the case where two people say that, how is it possible? You say that Harry borrowed money, right? And you say, you're telling you, how could Harry borrow money? He was with us exactly at that time. He wasn't with you. So therefore, this Eidim Ucheshes each other. One says yeah, one says not. So did my base kitei Eidim hamachishim zu, they weaken each other. Amar Rav Huna, Zuba b'fnei atzma, this one can come by testify, umeida, the zu b'fnei atzma and meida. Each one can come out and testify. Each one can come b'fnei atzma. Right? Like any other Rashi says, Rashbam, Zuba b'fnei atzma meida, kishar idiyah sheba'olam, lo nechaskinan b'psul misafik. Al Suffolk, we're not going to go ahead and passel them. So therefore, they could say this. Who said this? That's Rav Huna. Guys, that's mashma like Rav Nachman, holds like Rav Huna. Rav Nachman, who said, keep the one that Adis of the father still alive, meaning it's still viable, obviously holds you not out of the ballpark. So over here, when Rav Huna says these Adim over here in this case can go ahead and testify Vaita, obviously what? It's still in the ballpark. Right? Rav Chisda Amar, Bahade Sade Shakri Lomali. They can't testify. So obviously this is like Rava. So Lamer of Nachman, who says that we'll believe the Adis on the father, laid the Amar Rav Huna, who says over here that despite the fact that it's questionable on this Dini Mominus, they could testify in others. But Rava Kirav Chisda, and Rava would hold what? Like Rav Chisda. And Rava would hold like Rav Chisda. See the Rashbam over here. In other words, the whole kat can come testify, but not one from each one. Why? Because the one from each one of them is vadei a liar. Guys, kat A, kat B. You can't have A and B mix and match. Why? Because one of them is vadei a liar. They can come, the kat can come, the whole set. A mitzvah from the edis achas. The echem apostle bevadai. Vein kind of elachatzi edis. The tamder of Huna, guys. This is what I want. What's the reason of Huna that you could testify? It's questionable about whether you're trustworthy or not. Mishum deuki gavra aches kase. We're going to go ahead and put a person on his chazaka. V'leitiv salinu meisafik. And we're not going to go ahead and say he's also meisafik. The guy has a chesus kashrus. Unless vada you uprooted him, the suffix is not going to be meitzah chesus kashrus. And therefore we'll keep him viable. That's the svara of Rav Huna. Rav Chisda says, "Bahade sade shakri lamali." Continues Rashbam, "V'loy yoidu oid b'shemedis." They can't testify at all b'shemed b'oilam. Why? Duki memoyna aches kasei. We'll keep the money whoever has it. V'loy totzienu misafik shema edim b'sulim. Maybe the edim apostle. So this one is machzik on his mom, and this one's machzik on the gavra. Okay, so right now we want to suggest that it's machloikis amaroyim of Rav Nachman and Rava is the same machloikis between Rav Huna and Rav Chisda. Rav Nachman holding like Rav Huna and Rava holding like Rav Chisda. Says the Gemara Vaita. Aliba loy, put in the word loy. Aliba the Rav Chisda kulyam le pligi. Guys, there's no way Rav Nachman can come out like Rav Chisda. I'm going to give you a very good man makam, guys. Right? If you have a pencil, write this down. Very often we have this machloikis. The way to learn pshat and machloikis is when you want to say this is dependent upon this. The first line of the Gemara is that according to one person, you're right. He can't come out according to both. His zich is only according to one. So here's the man makam. This is where I got it from. It's a Rashi in Sukkah. It's a very good Rashi to know. Yudches Amid Beis. Dibra Maskal Aliba de Shmuel Kulyamale Pligi. Again, Rashi Sukkah Yudches Amid Beis. Dibra Maskal Aliba de Shmuel Kulyamale Pligi. And this is a source for Shas that when we have this dialogue, it means it's so common we have this, but again, and not everyone learns correct pshat. I don't know why. It's because it's a little ambiguous. Because it says, Loi, Aliba de Chisda Kulyamale Pligi. What does that mean? They don't argue? What does that mean? It means that Rav Nachman cannot come out. You're right. Rav Nachman can't come out like Rav Chisda. That's what it means. Rav Chisda says that the batal and the kodat can't. Ki pligi, when the machlokes, meaning when could you possibly say that Rava could hold like Rav Nachman? Ki pligi, no, Rava can hold like excuse me. Rabbi can hold like Rav Huna. Ki pligi aliba de Rav Huna. Rav Nachman Rav Huna. Rav Nachman holds like Rav Huna. That's clear, right? That the Adis is still viable. But Rava, where did Rava say the Adis is not viable, guys? By our case. But he could hold like Rav Huna in this case. Ad kan like Rav Huna. When Rav Huna say that the Adis is viable, el Adis acheres. That's for another case. In other words, Rav Huna would say that for another case that these Eidim who said the halva on Harry took place here, and we have Edis Harry, these Edim would be believed on another case, but not on the case of Harry. They believe in another case. What's our case, guys? Our case is, look, you have one person saying Shani Chazaka. You have another person saying Shani Chazaka and Daddy. Right? Good. Now, these two are canceling each other. These two are canceling each other out, and you're left with Daddy. So Rava says Rava says Rav Huna, who said over there he's believed to testify, that's only for another case. But in this case, since he was knocked out, guys, he was knocked out on what? On the Shani Chazaka, even Rav Huna would be Maida, we don't accept his Edis on the father. So Rava is not linked into saying that he's arguing on Rav Huna. He could be agrees with Rav Huna, that Rav Huna would agree with him. Again, one more time. Give me 2 seconds. Guys, outside, one more time. What are we doing over here? We want to say the machloikis between Rava and Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman who said the Edis is still viable despite the fact it was Hakchasha on part of the Edis, right? Would be the same machloikis between Rav Huna and Rav Chisda by, according to Rashbam, by Eidei Halva. Okay. Now, the Eidei Halva, when do we say that it's not viable Edis? That's for the net to testify again. According to Rav Chisda, they're out, gone, complete. According to Rav Huna, they could testify again. So too over here by us, according to Rava, they're out. According to Rav Nachman, they still could testify again. Says Rava, you're not testifying again. Says Rava, Rav Huna would admit over here, within the same testimony, it's not acceptable. Since you're out on the Eidei Chazaka, you're also out on the Eidei the father. When did Rav Huna say his din? Oh, you wouldn't believe by Harry. Now you're going to go ahead and testify in something else. You're going fine. That's what Rav Huna says. You'll be you'll keep mischazaka. Masha'en came over here, where already his chazaka has been what challenged, correct? Because after all, who knows who ate shonei chazaka? That even Rav Huna would be made that we won't accept his edus. So you're not locked into saying Rabbi is limited to saying Rav Chisda. Rabbi can even say, according to Rav Huna. Rav Nachman clearly cannot say like Rav Chisda, because Rav Chisda says across the board you don't accept it, and Rav Nachman's accepting the edus on the father that he owed the field. Says Rav Huna would agree with me. Rav Huna, who disagrees by Harry and the Halva, that's he says testifying on some other than, but within the same court case, that the edus on the same Haggadah's edus, that A, it's the fathers, and B, there was a Shani Chazaka, and on B, and Shani Chazaka, we're out of the ballpark. A, Rav Huna would agree, you're also out of the ballpark, like Rava. That's what he wants to say. Guys, you good? Okay, Baruch Hashem. Now, now, the guy who had said testimony on the Shani Chazaka, he now brought Eidim that it was his father's. Now, this is the one that Rav Nachman was mafsid. This is the one who only had Eidish Chazaka and did not have Eidim on the what? Guess this case actually happened, right? You know, sometimes you learn these cases and you say, this is the middle of the court case. So now, Rav Nachman initially had kept it by the person who had Eidus on the father. Now we have Trey. We have the exact same thing. Eidus on the Chazaka and Eidus on what? And the father. Now what do? Now, if Rav Nachman would reverse his psak, you may have a problem of Zilusa de Bezdin. We're going to segue into a sugya tomorrow about changing a court and not worrying about what people are going to say about Besdin, that they go ahead and they vacillate and they change. So if you're worried about Zilusa the Besdin, once Rav Nachman kept it over here, maybe keep it over here, or no. No, it's not Toya B'Dvar Mishnah. You didn't make a mistake. Not the Shaila making a mistake where you have to go ahead and go back, revert to din. Here's a psak. He gave a psak, and maybe just keep it there so that people shouldn't think Besdin's a joke. Okay, so Hadar, what happened? This person now bought Isi Sadeh. He bought Adis, the Avasahi, that it belonged to his father. Rav Nachman says Rav Nachman without any shame. Again, Rav Nachman, the head of Dinei Mamonis, the head of torts. Ano achtine, I took him, right? I took him down, and Maskini, I'll bring him back up. But Zilusa the Beidino, and I'm not worried about Lechashinon. I'm not worried about Zilusa the Besdin. So again, the case initially, Adis on Chazaka and father, Adis on Chazaka, 3 years. Rav Nachman kept the what by this guy because we both knocked out the Adis. They mocked at each other. Now this person that he knocked out is bringing Adis on both. So they're both knocked out. Good. So now the svara of Rav Nachman doesn't go ahead and hold water because after all, there's no Adis whatsoever that is alone. There's no Adis in the father alone. There's no Adis in the Chazaka alone. So they're both wiped out. They're both wiped out. Okay. So what did Rav Nachman do? He took the land away and he kept it. I mean, I guess they don't know who it belongs to. So he didn't put it in his rishus. So it says the Gemara, "What Chashina Masar Rava? You're telling me you're not worried about the Zilus of the Besdin? That you Rav Nachman are not worried. I'll show you do worry about Zilus of the Besdin. Guys, back to Yavamis, right? Two people are believed they Isha to let her remarry. Correct? We're worried about the whole end there that Adis that the husband died and therefore the woman should be able to remarry. So Shnayim Moimim Meis. Two people say that what the husband's dead. Shnayim Moimim Loy Meis. He's not. Shnayim Moimim Niskarsha. Two people said he divorced you. Shnayim Moimim Loy Niskarsha. Either way, she's not right. Harezu Loy Tinase. So either way, she's not going to fall to Yibum. Right? In other words, if he's dead, well, no, in a second. If he's dead and there's no children, he would fall to Yibum. But the question is, whether she can remarry or not. Niskarsha, whether she can remarry or not. I'm sorry, forget the Yibum. You marry. Harezu Loy Tinase. Since you have Edis Umaket Shisada, then she shouldn't marry. In Nisas, if she does get married, if she does get married, she doesn't leave. She doesn't leave. Rav Nachman, Rabbi Yossi, Omer Teitze, right? You would leave, right? Rav Nachman, Rabbi Yossi, Emisayni, Omer Teitze. When do I say you leave? Bisman Shabo Eidim V'Akach Nises. Eidim came first, and then she married. So you leave. Why? Because you didn't have Edis. You had Edis Mucheshes each other. Aval Nises. If first she got married, V'Achakach Bo Eidim, and afterwards Eidim came and said, no, two Eidim said they died. She remarried. Two Eidim said Niskarsha, and she remarried. And then comes along two Eidim and say he's not dead, or two Eidim said you're not divorced. Then Harisulay Teitze. Then you do not leave. Why? Why? Because you're worried about the Zilus of the Besdin. You're worried about the Zilzul of Besdin, guys. Again, when do we say leave? That's only she married after the Eidim came, so you had 2 against 2. But if she remarried based upon the Eidus, meaning that what the Eid was a viable Eid, and she remarried, now shows up the other Eid and says the other one was what? Not telling the truth, right? Because I'm saying the opposite. Then they stay together. Why? Because we're worried about Zilus of the Besdin. That people say Besdin's a joke. Kashan of Nachman, Amalei. So Nachman said, "Anos sabri lemevad uvda." I thought to do this. I thought to take it away from the guy who initially did not have, who had Adis on the father as well. And as the Svinan at, but now there's Nasa at, you slug me up from this Gemara in Yavamis. Voice from Rav Hamnuna B'Surya. And so they have, and Rav Hamnuna B'Surya slug me up. Le'avdina by Uvda. Right? Nafik of it Uvda. Now he went in and he paskin what? That keep it by the guy. Keep it by the guy, the first guy. Man there was a choice that you are worried about Zilzul the Besdin. It's not true. Okay, we're going to stop over here because it segues into the next sugya, and we'll pick it up Ma'aser Shabbos. I'll go over the pratim again. We'll go over again, but we're segueing into from one sugya arucha to another.